Hello and welcome. Xolo here with another vrising video, and today we'll be revisiting gardens. A few days ago I put out a poll asking which of these vrising videos would you like to see from me the most, and you guys chose gardens, so here I am. If you haven't seen my first video going over garden layouts, I'll be linking it here so you can watch it after this video. Something else I'd like to mention before we get started is that every castle build or every build I have here in this video will be available for download over at my Ko-Fi for free. So I do this with all my castle builds and stuff like that. So if you ever see a castle build on the channel that you really like and you would like to download it for free, you can go do so at my Ko-Fi. Most of the castles are on there. But anything before 1.0 is probably not there, so just keep that in mind. By the way, I'm on this plot right now, so this is the plot I happen to be on. This is over in the Oakvale area. I'm sure someone's gonna ask, so I figure I'd mention it now. For this first example, we're going to be working with a corner of a castle. This is pretty common to see maybe doors kind of leading to each other from the outside of a castle to kind of access two different parts of the castle. So I thought it'd be really neat to kind of incorporate that here. So we're going to start off by putting our wallpaper on. I think I'm going to decide to use the plain stone wallpaper. Then I'm going to go to fences and I'm going to put down the verdant garden fencing. This is all kind of like subject to your own tastes, but I hope that like by showing some examples of layouts and stuff, maybe you guys might draw from that and think, well, maybe I don't like this particular statue or this particular thing, but this is... I also have a chance here to put down some pathing, so we're going to go with the garden cobblestone paving. So now we've effectively cut our garden into two massive sections. So you have a smaller section up here and then a much larger section here. And technically you could say we've cut it into three parts if I put something here, which I will. So let's put down, I think I'm going to go with a lamppost that doesn't have any like real directional stuff going on. I'm not going to go with this one because it's a little bit too hardcore for the style I'm going for. So we're gonna go with the softer one, if that makes sense. And I think I'm gonna place that right over here. I'm also gonna put them against the doors. A lot of times when you see lampposts and gardens and stuff, most people don't put them against the door, but I honestly don't really mind the look, as long as it allows you to have enough lighting and stuff at night that it looks kind of cool. Let's also put down, let's do some windows here. So I think I'm going to put down maybe something like these. And we're going to leave this outside area kind of plain. I don't think I'm going to put any wall vegetation or castle wall vegetation throughout this build. I'm just going to focus mostly on the layout of the floor. So now that I have my lighting set up, I think I'm going to add some statues. I think a good way to kind of figure out what statues you want is based on kind of like the wallpaper. So if my wallpaper is stony like this one, I'm gonna go with a plain stone gargoyle statue. I don't usually go with the plain stone anything, to be completely honest. I usually pick some other like more bold wallpaper, but I think that for the purpose of this tutorial it kind of makes sense to use something a little bit simpler. I'm also going to maybe do something kind of interesting here. I could also put some flowers at different heights to kind of create more of a kind of like a triangular kind of look coming down from the wall, which is very possible. And then maybe I could just put castle vegetation against these walls and then leave these alone. So, you know, I kind of like that idea. So let's try that. Let's go with the garden planters. And we're going to choose something a little bit taller. So we're going to go with the noble tall planter. And we're going to start off by putting one directly in the corner. Another option would be something like this one. So this is another level of vases that we could go with. Or I should say planters. I keep calling them vases, but they're basically planters. There is kind of a difference, I guess, but I don't know, my brain is just not processing the fact that there's a difference. And then I could put down maybe a smaller or a shorter plant right here in the center. So we kind of have a nice little cluster of things here. So basically the idea would be to get a bunch of plants on the first row, then the second row, then the third row. I'm not sure exactly which ones I want to use just yet, but I do need to prepare the growing plots. So we're gonna place them here. So we're gonna make sure that we've placed them well. What I should have done is I should have placed them as I was first putting them down, but I have enough experience doing this that I can kind of do it on the fly. But it might be easier for you guys to do it where like you put down a row of planters and then you put down your growing plots and then another row and then growing plots. So that's something to consider. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go with something like this. So now that we've kind of set up our initial garden, I think that putting down something to kind of hold guests or even just have, you know, a place to sit down would be really nice. Another option could be that I could add maybe some trees. I'm going to take the traditional tree plots and we're going to plant some trees. I think I'm going to put one right here at the center of these two pillars here within the fence, and then I'm going to also use this other pair as another measuring tool. And I think maybe since I'm going to be going with maybe a more relaxed coloration, I might want to choose more natural looking trees or something. So maybe some apple trees or even oak trees might work better here. I haven't really decided yet. So we're going to keep going. I think I'm going to figure out which tree I'm going to place after I figure out what plants I'm going to put here. So let's start off with actually, let's put down some regular planted stuff. So having these kinds of things at the top are pretty cool because you can actually change the color of these now. So, well, actually, that has been a thing for a while, but I figured, you know, mentioning that might not be too bad. So I'm gonna have these like pointy ones kind of match these. I did have the option to add flowers, but I decided kind of not to for now. But I could in theory. I think I'm gonna add some roses maybe. So we're gonna give ourselves some blood rose seeds. And we're gonna place our roses right here. Notice I could also place them within these bushes because I did kind of sort that out. I'm kind of tempted to just put that in there and see how that looks. Let's speed up time actually. All right, so if I were to add this with the roses, it actually looks like just a weird bush with roses sticking out of it. I'm not sure how much I really like this look. It's okay, but it's weird because it makes the roses not glow, which I don't necessarily like. So we're just going to not do that. But that was a nice little discovery there. I'm gonna be rotating these flowers as I'm placing them so that it doesn't look too repetitive. And then we're also going to place maybe I think maybe a sunflower might be cool. Let's let this grow in and then just kind of gauge from there how this looks and then decide what our third plant is going to be. So we got our roses, we have our sunflower, our lone sunflower. And then we also have some other opportunities to do other stuff here. I think I'm going to actually put some bleeding hearts here. It's kind of cool because it almost looks like the plants are holding hands. Like, I know that's like kind of weird, but I looked at it and I was like, huh, that's interesting. So yeah, we have a cool little corner here. And like I said, it's kind of a matter of taste as far as what plants you want to use. You can literally put anything here and it'll probably look fine. And as far as these goes, because these flowers are kind of reddish and pink, I think I'm gonna go with the cherry blossoms. Not the white cherry blossom saplings, just the regular ones. So the pink ones, I mean. And we're just going to rotate them inward, and hopefully they grow in the direction I'm anticipating they will. Already this area looks a lot nicer. So I could also put down maybe some furniture here. Like maybe I could go with something a little bit more chill. Like I could go with something like maybe something like this even. So I'm gonna put this slightly closer to the tree than away from the tree, because I don't want to overlap the statues. And then of course we're going to add our blood roses on the trellises so that we kind of match the theme here that we have going on in this garden. And then I'm also going to add some seating. We're going to go to garden furniture, and we're going to go to the noble garden bench. And then we're going to push the bench just in front of these trellises so that it kind of looks like they have kind of a nice little arching thing going on here. And then something else I could do is I could add some lighting from behind now. The bad thing about the trellises is that you can't really place anything underneath them unless you glitch them there. Which, I mean, there are ways to glitch things in a way to kind of break the limits of what the game is allowing me to do here, but I'm not going to get into that. There's a lot of lighting, but I don't really have a lot of coverage on the ground here. So if you look at the ground, there's not a lot of shrubbery and stuff, and it's kind of clear that you don't really want to be walking around back here. So I have an opportunity essentially to kind of plant whatever I want. So I'm going to be kind of careful here. I'm not going to go too crazy. I think I'm going to maybe add a small growing plot underneath the lamps. And then we're also going to add our, I think we're going to add roses right here just to kind of complement that. And then if we put down some more, we can maybe put one here, and well, actually, let me move this. We can place this a little bit closer, and we can put this here. It's a lot less obvious that this is not aligned with these when I moved it forward here because of the trellises. So we have a little bit of space here. And I understand that the trellises aren't really meant to be used in this way, but I kind of like the way that it looks against the benches. So maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's just a personal taste thing. I could also take this and put a rose behind there. All right, and now we have a beautiful garden. I really like the way this looks. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but I think it really does kind of complement itself with the pinkish, reddish colors. Another good tree to use here might be something like the apple tree, possibly, or maybe the autumn aspens, I think would be good in this build. So, you know, just mess around with whatever you want, but hopefully this kind of inspires you a little bit with some ideas for like a corner side garden. So basically, if you're, let's say you're, you know, walking through the castle grounds, you go to the corner, you have a nice little symmetrical kind of look, and no matter what direction you're kind of walking in, you have a nice kind of a slope with the height of these flowers going downward. If I wanted something a little bit more dramatic, I could have gone with something more like a a fire blossom seed, or a fire blossom. Well, I could go with fire blossoms. Another alternative is I could have used some pillar mounted balefire sconces with like a blue light, like maybe a light blue light, and then I could use maybe like the white cherry blossoms instead of the cherry blossoms. So if pink and red isn't really like your thing, you can definitely go with something a little bit brighter and then just have snow flowers down here instead. So yeah, you have some options. So definitely, you know, you don't have to go with exactly what I have here, for example, but I hope this kind of gives you some ideas. All right, so for example number 2, we're going to do something a little bit different. In this build, I'm going to basically add in some horse stables. So we're going to Add a nice little stable at the edge here. Well, I shouldn't say little. It's not that small, I guess you could say. But, yeah, we're gonna have our little entrances here. Normally I would use a gate for like a, you know, side-by-side one that's like two. You know, like maybe two stalls, but in this case we're going to kind of add some stalls that are a little bit different. Now I know what you're thinking. What does this have to do with gardening? Don't worry, we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm gonna show you because this will include a garden, but you know, sometimes you do have to build like certain structures and things like little pavilions and things like that in order to kind of get like the look and feel that you want. So in this particular case, I'm going to make some stables. So that's going to kind of get the look and feel that I want. So we're going to try this out. I was thinking about making a separate guide on just stables. Like as far as like trying to make some builds with some nice layouts and stuff. So if you guys are interested in that, just let me know and I might consider making a guide on, or maybe some kind of like decoration idea compilation of like different kinds of stables and things like that. Now, you're probably wondering, why is it that I had made like an extra space here? I think it was because when I tried to place, yeah, so if I try to place something here, it's not going to work. There's just not enough space on the grid for this. So that's why I have to create like an extra space. So what I'm going to do, because of the way these stables are set up, I'm going to change out the flooring. So the flooring here is going to be a little bit more, a little bit different. There we go. So now it kind of blends in. I wish we had a tile that really fit this, because right now we have, so we have this, right? Which is kind of similar, but it's not the right color and it doesn't really align and doesn't work well with this particular design. So that's like the one thing about the stables that if I could change something about it, that would be it. It would be, you know, the way that it shows itself essentially. But yeah, we're gonna go with this. I'm also going to create some, well actually, let's add some doors. We're gonna add some barn doors. I could put solid doors here, or if I wanted to do something a little bit different, I could add something like this, like these gates, or my personal favorite would either be like the prison doors or the barrier gates. I think the barrier gates here would be better just so that you could see the horses inside, you know, theoretically. I'm not gonna go too crazy on like the design inside this building because that's not what this guide is about, right? So we're gonna keep things simple. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to kind of give it some basic wallpaper. We're gonna go with wooden stable walls. And we're gonna do the same thing for the outside. And we're going to maybe do something kind of similar, but for the outside of this area right here. And then we're going to add our fencing. So we have some stables fencing. What I could do is add some side entrances into the fencing so that you have some easy access on both sides. And then now we're going to kind of decorate our yard here with different planters and different hedges and things like that. I haven't really used any hedges in the first build, so I kind of want to do that here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this here and that here. We're going to have our hedges. I think I'm also going to change the color of the grass. I mean, I guess the grass being like green is probably ideal. But I feel like with horses kind of trampling this area, it's not really going to, it's not really going to do well. So maybe I want to go with more of like a brown or like a darkish color. Let's add some time to kind of bring us up to, daytime. There we go. So if I kind of experiment with the colors a little bit, I think this one looks the most like dirt, so we're gonna go with a dirt color for the ground here. And then for these hedges, we're gonna go with a dark green. All right. That way, the browns and everything just kind of works together and not against us, if that makes sense. I could also add some more of these hedges here and replace these doors with walls. So, because like I said, it's connected, so they can all get out from one exit. So I think that's actually what I'm gonna go with. Let's make these some solid walls. Wait, hold on, I gotta remove this. Make these solid walls. Oh, it's the doors, I think, that are holding it back. I thought it was the fencing. It's not the fencing. Okay. And then we're going to do that and do this. And now we're going to continue our fencing. And we're also going to add more hedges. I wish there was like a copy paste tool for the hedges so that I don't have to necessarily go through like, you know, carefully choosing my colors every time and all that good stuff, but here we are. All right, so we got it right in the perfect space. Now we have a round pen almost, which is super cool if you think about it. It's kind of like a fake round pen, I would say. It kind of reminds me of that. But it still kind of serves a purpose, so I guess it looks cool. Let's put a door here just to kind of complete the look outside the castle. And this is going to be more, instead of a round pen, I'm not actually going to use it as such, but you could technically make one if you had like a bigger plot and a bigger size. But, you know, like I said, this guide is not, well, I wouldn't even say guide. This video is not about that, but you know, I'm already sparking ideas. So just, you know, the ideas or possibilities are endless with this. But in our case, we're actually going to have our hedge sculptures. So we're going to do a little bit of cool sculpting here with the horsies. We're actually, you know what? Let's tuck them into the corners. So we're gonna tuck them in right over here. We're gonna do the same thing on this side, but with the other horses, or the other horse statue. Didn't say statue, but you know what I mean. Alright, so now when you enter, you clearly have your sculptures, which is kind of cool. Alright, so everything is looking good. Let's also add some shrubbery and some plant life to this area. It might not be a bad idea to even add some roses in this bush to kind of make it look like it's like a rose bush or something. So what I can do is I can take some growing plots, like these exterior growing plots, and I can add them very carefully underneath here. But I have to be careful because, again, I can't really see what I'm doing here. So if I'm doing this, I have to kind of use my own judgment here as far as like where everything is going to be placed and where it should go. But I've had enough practice placing these that I feel like kind of fairly confident. So if you're more of an advanced builder, this could be a little bit easier for you. But if you're not, this might take some time. It's okay. You know, you got to start somewhere. You got to get that practice in. There we go. So now that we've hidden things on just these two sides, I'm gonna kind of add these plants or add these flowers to see if it actually makes any sense or if it looks weird or whatever. So we're gonna try this out. I haven't really done this yet on any of my builds, but I'm curious to see how it turns out. I could have also gone with a shorter hedge. Maybe that would have been the smarter play. So if I were to go with something a little bit more like this, right? And I were to kind of do the same thing, then the hedges might not be hiding the flowers as well. So that's something else to consider. So you know what? I think I'm going to change these other two and just make them kind of like a half hedge. Yeah, so I think the shorter hedges definitely look a lot better with this concept. So going forward, I think that's what I'll do. All right, so now that I've placed all these flowers and we have these cool rose bushes, which I honestly, I'm kind of surprised at how nice they look. I didn't expect them to look as good as they do. I'm really happy with that. And I'm thinking maybe what I could do is add some sunflowers underneath the bases of these horses. All right, so yeah, these sunflowers are looking pretty neat on the basis of these horse statues. I've actually done something like this in the past, but it was for the Castle Throne series, and I believe it was the Castle Throne that was the outdoor one that had kind of a similar idea, if I remember correctly. If you guys haven't seen that video, feel free to go check that out. I'm actually going to leave a link to my Castle Throne series right here, so you guys can access that as well. But yeah, so far this looks good. I think I'm also going to add in maybe some lighting. So that's something that's kind of been harder to see in this area. So maybe we'll go with more of a Gothica hanging lantern. And we're gonna go with just a classic regular lighting on the door frames. And we're also going to maybe add in, I'm thinking maybe a different tile even. Let's see if I can add a tile here. No. I can add a different tile in the center though. So maybe we can do something a little interesting here with a single tile in the center. So we don't want to go with a wooden tile. A brick tile might work out nicely though. And what I can do is I can add maybe fountain in the center, or a better option might be to add something like a well or a place, you know, for water to be gulped up by the horsies. So maybe this is what I'll do, is I'll add this in, try to make sure that this is straight on the tile. And then now that that's up, we can also add some extra decorations and things. So maybe that decoration might be something like some hay bales or something. So let's go with, let's see, the garden furniture. I don't exactly remember where the hay bales are. There we go. So the hay bale is right here. We can put a little sign here if we want to, just to kind of, you know, add to the look. So if I wanted to, I can just put like a little sign here, or I can put one like on the sides. That might be cool too. But I think what I'm gonna do is add a couple of hay bales. So we'll add a hay bale here, maybe another like pile of hay over here. I don't want to obstruct the walkways, but I do want to have a place to kind of you know, have a plausible area for the horses to enjoy their meal. So we can have that going on right there. Maybe we want, I mean, I could put down a watering trough or a water trough, but I think that's more for like the indoor stuff. So like I said, I'm not going to focus too much on that right now, but if I wanted to, I could put, you know, water troughs right here. I could put a hitching post like outside, like if, let's say this area of this garden was like bigger and it was connected to like other areas, you could put maybe some hitching posts like right outside. But yeah, I think this would be decent. I think I also want to add in another hay bale right here just for some symmetry. And I decided to use the two different little hay sections here, so we're going to put that a little bit closer to the walls. That way it's not in our way, not obstructing. But yeah, I think this is a pretty nice little garden area here, where if I wanted to, I can let my horses out and they could just be chilling out here and having a good old time. So something I wish we had is, I wish we had a lamppost that had the clairvoyance lamp sconces, or like the kind of like the clairvoyance stuff, or even like the hanging version of it. This is as close as we have to what I was talking about, but I wish that we had a taller version of this, like a much taller version of that. So Unfortunately, we do not have that, but what we could do is we can add in maybe something a little bit more decorative. So we have some lanterns, right? So, you know, it is October, so maybe we want to be a little bit spookier. And we can add some haunted lights here. So I'm gonna put this in the corner. And we're gonna have these facing outwards, so these creepy little pumpkins can be facing the public, so that maybe they're too scared to enter the stables and steal our horses. Who knows? Maybe it just works like that. I'm not entirely sure, but we can hope. And of course we have another candle stand here I could add, but I don't want to use candles on the outdoors, so I'm just gonna repeat the first pumpkin again. I really like this one. Now the interesting thing about these haunted nights kind of decoration items, when 1.0 came out, they didn't really adjust the lighting on these lanterns, so they look super bright, but I like the idea of adding these in just to add a little bit of extra, you know, lighting or something. I could technically maybe place some taller lamps here, like one popular one that I like to see a lot. So like, let's say you don't have this pack, right? Which if you're just new to the game and you haven't downloaded this yet, this is something that usually comes out in October. Usually the devs put out an announcement saying, hey, we have this available again, and it's kind of like a seasonal DLC, and it's free. So it also comes with a bunch of other items, but I just figured I'd mention that because I know someone's going to ask in the comments. So hopefully that kind of answers that question. But let's say we didn't have that, right? We could just put these kind of lampposts up instead, and these would work very well as our lanterns. So that's an alternative option, and that one is called the Rural Garden Lamppost. These are really good for things like stables and farms and things like that, because it kind of reminds me of some of the lighting you see over in Dunley farmlands. So maybe that's something to consider. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. What I could do is I could add some corner lights here just to kind of add a little bit more lighting, right? Especially at night. You don't want to have like a creepy, you know, area for your horses. But if I can walk through here, my horse can probably walk through here. At least I assume so. But yeah, you can put them on all four corners, and now you have a nice little garden. So yeah, let me know what you think of this particular build. I think this one is probably going to end up being my favorite of the bunch, just because of the way that it's kind of set up. All right, now we're moving on to example number 3. So for this example, I decided to make a very odd looking part of the castle. So let's say this is the corner of a castle, for example, right? And let's say the corner of the castle happens to have maybe a triangular shape here from this angle, and not really a like a closed tile. Like maybe it doesn't close at a point, but maybe you're lining a riverbed or something like this. The arena walls are kind of one of my favorites of the new ones that you get. As far as like where you get the arena walls, now I think about it, I should have mentioned this sooner, but the stable walls that we used over here, you get those by taking down Sir Irwin. So if we go to our list here, so he's level 46. If you take him out, he gives you a lot of these cool like stable types of furniture items. So if you're not there yet, don't worry, you'll unlock that eventually. And also Gaius, not Sir Gaius. I don't know why I said that. Gaius the Cursed Champion, he drops weapons racks and things like that, and also the arena walls. So yeah, those are the 2 new bosses we got in patch 1.1. This guy is level 55, so once you unlock that, you'll have all of the wallpapers and things from those 2 as far as like the items and stuff goes. But I think in this case we're gonna stick to the classic ebonite stone wall that we get with the, you know, just the base game. And yeah, we're going to, not that the other 2 aren't base games, but I just wanted to clarify like where they come from so that people aren't confused looking for them in the wallpapers and stuff. But yeah, we're gonna use this because this is the earliest one you have access to, and then we're gonna go to let's see, we're gonna go to garden. We want to add maybe some fencing here, so I think I'm gonna go with something like this ancient symphony garden fencing or the noble garden fencing. Ancient Symphony comes from the Castlevania DLC, so if you don't have that, a good alternative would be something like the Noble Garden Fence. So we're just going to use the Noble Garden Fence in our case. Let's see. There we go. So now that we have the Noble Garden Fence, we've clearly defined the perimeter of our garden. I'm going to add in some more decorations and stuff. So I think one of the most powerful kinds of decorations you can use for like a more of a spoopy or spooky like castle would be something like the braziers. And one of my favorite ones that I like is the let's see if I can find it. Here we go. The Cabal brazier, because it has actual like skulls in it, which is like super cool. We're gonna go with let's go with a green. Let's go with a green kind of build. And we're gonna put this maybe right here for now. And I'm gonna add another one over on this side. Now you're probably wondering, what am I doing with these, right? Don't worry, we're getting there. We're gonna go to decoration, then statues, and we're gonna mess around with these gargoyles. I absolutely love these gargoyle statues. I wish we had more of them. They're so cool. So we have a gargoyle that is thinking right here. So maybe the thoughtful gargoyle, or I think it's called the eldest pondering gargoyle. We can put him right there, and we can put this little brazier right underneath him so that, you know, the darkness kind of like shines off, sorry, the light shines off his face in the darkness, which kind of adds a really neat look. And then of course there's another one that I really like, the eldest pleading gargoyle. I really like this one because you can do so much with the ones like holding out their arms like that. Like I've done things like put the clairvoyance stands and things like that to make it look like they're kind of like conjuring something or like trying to use the orb or something in front of them, which is also a really, really cool look. But in our case, we're just going to go with the cool green. I think I'm also going to change out the flooring. And in this flooring area, we're going to use a little bit more of this rough floor. I think the rough floor might make more sense here. And we're going to kill the grass by using the kind of like gray color. Now, because of where this castle is situated, you're going to have some of the natural stuff peeking through the ground. So it is going to kind of break that fantasy of like just dead grass. So in my case, because of where this castle is located, I'm going to use this this darker green, kind of like a darker foresty green on these. And it still stands out a little bit, but I feel like it kind of looks a little bit better, especially against the black of the castle. And now that we have these gargoyles going here, I definitely want to add something cool here in the center. So I think what we could do is we could put maybe two statues kind of facing certain ways. So maybe something like this. Let me align this statue here. We'll have the female statue here and the male statue here. Oh, I missed. There we go. And then we can also put maybe some more of the lighting and stuff that we really like here. So maybe I can use kind of like this brazier. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner than the other ones. So, well, and you know, in comparison, it looks thinner, but the wings outstretched definitely make it look a little bit bigger in some ways. So we're going to add that here and here. And then I think I'm also going to add in, oddly enough, maybe some wall fountains or something. Maybe I'm trying to think what else, because I'm trying to use items that are maybe not part of a DLC per se, but something I would use if you have the Nocturnal Opulence wall fountain. That could be really cool in this build. You can put them like on the sides here, and you have like a, you know, a cool little wall blood fountain. These are super neat, and I highly recommend that pack. just because the items you get from it is just so cool. You can also maybe take some time to add, if you want to make it like super spooky, you can put maybe some cobwebs out here. Now remember, this Haunted Nights web drapes window and stuff, these come from the Halloween DLC, like I said, that I've mentioned in the previous example with the pumpkins. So, you know, it is October, so maybe we add some webs and it'll be all right. I'm very afraid of spiders, but at least the webs don't come to life, so I think I can tolerate this for now. So if we want to make it a little bit extra spooky, we definitely can. We could also add, actually, let's see if I can add some more stuff here. Actually, you know what I could do is I could go in and add some castle wall vegetation. And instead of these draperies, I can add, well, actually, I might be able to add, yeah, there we go. So we have some growth here with the vines and the weeds with a little bit of mushrooms and stuff. This might be kind of cool to have instead. So if you don't like the spider webs, or if you don't have them, that's definitely another good alternative. And honestly, I kind of like them a little bit more, so I think we're gonna go with that. So this is called morass. Or I think it's pronounced morass. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not like a plant expert, guys. I like shrubbery, but I'm not a plant expert. I'm not a botanist of any kind, I promise you. And let's add some more wall vegetation here. Just kind of continue with this theme. I really like the way that the vegetation is kind of engulfing the walls here. So it definitely gives a more creepy vibe. I think something else we could do that I have not done yet is I could add maybe even more lighting, or I could add some more flowers and stuff. So we want to add a little bit of visual variety when it comes to things like our flower plots and things like that. So let's go with something like this medium growing plot, and we're going to use this kind of spiky looking one and just kind of put it here in the corner so that we can put our flowers down. They should look really cool. And then we're gonna put another maybe like smaller one, so there's like much smaller growing plots here, and we can put them on the edges here. So we're gonna do that as well. And then if we wanted to, we can also add some really small growing plots down here next to these gargoyles if we want to add kind of more of a creepier or like different kind of element. I'm thinking maybe some morning flowers might be good, because you see those a lot in cemeteries, at least in, you know, this game. I could also use some plague briars, but those are more of a gloomrot plant, so maybe I should hesitate on that. Kind of on the fence though. And I could also, if I want to go with a much larger one, again, I could put this here in the center, but I think it's going to be too big. So let's go with a smaller one. And we're going to put this like right here in the middle of the tie, and we can walk around it. It's not really preventing me from getting from point A to point B. So I think we'll be okay. And let's add these little frames here. Well, actually, let me get these flowers looking good. We're gonna try and surround the gargoyles with some nice flowers. The only thing is that it doesn't quite fit well here, so I think I might have messed up here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this back by one. And then we're gonna move that last one right here so that it's kind of perfectly around it. I might put the morning lilies on the edge of these gargoyles. I do have kind of a green light going on here, but I could always change that to something else. Like I could always change that to kind of like a pale blue to match the morning lilies or something, kind of like this. And it'll still look super creepy, I guarantee you. So it's really a matter of taste, I feel like. What I could do also is I could add some, maybe some seating. So maybe a garden, let's see, maybe a garden bench of some kind. So what if I really wanted to, I could put garden bench right here and just remove this, or like place this maybe further backward, like right there. And I can place, well, actually I could even place like a chair and some, you know what? Yeah, I like this idea more. We're gonna add, instead, we're gonna add a table here. Maybe not directly in the very center. And we're going to put down our chairs. Let me make sure that, actually the issue with this is that the chairs will not be aligned in the same direction as this, but we could just place them down and it'll be fine. So all right, so we have some garden chairs. They're all accessible. There's no reason to go back in here into the brush, the brush or the bushes. So I think we can leave that alone, and then we can place our final flower plot. We'll put it right. We'll go with a medium one, maybe. Yeah, because there's no alternative large ones. So we're gonna go with a medium one, and we'll place it here. So let's add some flowers to this, and then once I'm done adding the different flowers, I'm going to reassess the color of the lamps, and if I want to change that, then you know that will happen, I guess. All right, so this is the final look without changing the lamps. I think I am going to change the lamps to purple. The green is nice, but I could also go with like a blue to match these morning lilies, even just to kind of have more of a spectral look even. I could also go with a white if I want to be like extra weird, but it's not as spoopy. So I think either a light blue here would be good, and maybe like a purple on these could be good, or I could change it up and maybe add like a blue here just for lighting purposes, and then just, you know, with the purple seeds here, I have to maybe think about this again, because I could also put like purple here instead, but it kind of clashes against the flowers. So I think I'm going to go with a spooky blue instead. We're going to remove these, and we're just going to place a couple of morning lilies. All right, and now we have our spoopy garden. So yeah, this is just another example of the possibilities you have, really. I mean, I could add, like I said earlier, this is kind of just, you know, I'm just kind of staging these examples, but maybe the kind of door I could recommend here for something like this would be something more like the ancient symphony gates are pretty nice, or maybe something like this. Let me see. These gloomrot doors aren't bad either, so we can add the gloomrot doors to kind of, you know, keep with the blue greenish theme, and that'll work just fine. So by the way, these doors are part of the gloomrot pack, so that is something that you would have to you know, get separately if you wanted these doors, but pretty much any other door would work fine. Like even like these solid ones would work fine. So yeah, it's really up to you what you want to do, but I really like the way that this particular garden corner kind of worked out. So if you ever have kind of an opportunity to do something like this in one of your castles, I highly recommend giving it a try. So for our fourth example, we're going to work on another corner garden, and in this case we're going to have one door and one window with a castle heart on the outside. Now, I do not recommend this if you are on a PvP server that allows castle raiding or anything like that. I highly recommend you do not do this, but we are going to make this look nice. So if you're on a PvE server, you're not really in danger of your castle being like, you know, swept away by another player or something like that. So we're going to kind of mess around with a little bit of kind of wall decorations and a little bit of different color combinations here that we haven't tried yet. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, we're going to choose a window. We're going to grab this, maybe this Gothic Clear. I like this one a lot. And let's also use some garden fencing, or actually, instead of garden fencing, what I could do here is I could, instead of using fencing, use hedges. So if I wanted to, I can put up a tall hedge right here. Now, the cool thing about hedges, a lot of people don't know, is that your hedges can actually be halfway outside of your plot line. So you can put them like smack dab in the middle, and they can actually like be placed there, which is kind of insane when you think about it. But it's still cool, so great, I guess. All right, and we're also going to place down, oh, you know what I could do? We could have high edges like this, right? Or I could go with something a little bit more visually interesting. So if I wanted to, I can go with a different kind of hedge here that's maybe not so high up. Maybe like a half height hedge at the edge here. Edge at the edge. Oh my god, that rhymes. And and I think something like this could be good. Or you could maybe do something a little bit more nuanced here, where maybe you have actually I'm using the wrong hedge. There we go. You have something like this, where maybe the side kind of slopes down for whatever reason. And then you could also do something like maybe add maybe, you know what, actually let's add, or let's subtract this from this equation, and then we'll put them on these sides. And now we have a little bit more of a shape to this one, which I like. And I think we're also going to add in maybe a column. So we'll do like maybe like a short column like that at the very edge, just to kind of pin it in place. And let's maybe go with something a little bit different in color. So maybe let's go with more of an autumn look. Something I could do is I could add a table out here with a bunch of stuff. But before I do that, I want to kind of choose my wallpaper for the exterior of this, you know, fake castle that we have here. And I think maybe something I could use, let's say I don't want to go with this. Maybe I want to go with something a little bit lighter, like this elegant stone wallpaper. That one is super bright, and I don't really like the way that it looks per se when it comes to this particular hedge. Like having orange against the white seems kind of weird. Maybe I could try something like this brick. Yeah, so maybe something like this brick could work. Well, actually, I can add some castle wall vegetation. So maybe we want to add something like this wisteria, even. We can maybe have some orange wisteria kind of going through the walls here, which might be kind of cool. So we'll add that in. And maybe we want that to kind of extend to other parts of the columns of this build. So we got to make sure that, you know, it's all looking a certain way. And then of course we're going to need our door. So maybe we want to add in maybe something like this even, or this. A gate like this would be okay as well. I don't see why you couldn't do that. I think in my case, we're just going to go with a solid classic door. Because I think it looks nice against this. So now that we kind of have this set up, we're going to protect the castle heart. Not really, but we're going to add some fencing to this castle heart just to kind of give it a little bit more life. And I think I'm going to use the rural garden fencing, and we're going to use the brown version of that. That way we have a little bit of fencing to separate the heart from the rest of the build, but it still looks kind of nice. And we're going to go with more of an autumn colored look here. Now, just having this grass here, it seems a little bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the foundation to something a little bit more unique. So let's go with something like this rough floor and see how that looks. Kind of meh. I'd say it's okay. Maybe, let's see, can we get like a green, a bright green out of that? That's actually not terrible. having like a little bit of a green here with some green on the wisteria. I feel like, and also because of the color of the natural ground in this particular area, it just kind of works out. So this could be good. And then let's try and add some furniture and maybe another tree. I love using trees in the gardens because it adds like an extra flavor, you know, it gives it a little bit of a visual pop. So let's go with growing plots, and then we're going to go to large growing plots. Now, naturally, my eye wants to bring a tree to like this spot in particular. Like my brain naturally wants to put a tree here. Another good option would be maybe here near this window, but then you run the risk of the tree bleeding into the building. So maybe not do that. I don't know. I could also put it here in the center if I want to balance it out a little bit, because I technically could just walk around it. But I think in this case, I'm going to squeeze it all the way over here. And I'm going to see if I can get a tree looking good here. I'm going to give myself I think I'm going to go with an autumn aspen tree here, just to kind of, another good option might be an autumn birch, but the birch trees have like a white trunk, so you kind of want to balance it a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with the autumn aspen, since those have the darker trunk. And let's place that over here. Okay, yeah, so my suspicions were correct. It's not going to fit here. It's not going to let me place a tree there, so I have to move it up a little bit, which is fine. And I'm also going to add some wooden benches and stuff. So let's go to garden furniture, and then we're going to go to the rural garden table, and we're going to use the brown table. And we're going to put a couple of chairs here. So we're going to have one here and one here, which is kind of nice looking, to be honest. I really like the way it looks. Kind of gives you those nice autumn vibes. It's really up to you what kind of tree you want to use here. Another like solid pick for pretty much any build, I would say, are the oak trees, because the oak trees have really big crowns to them. So let's say I don't like this tree, right? Let's say I want to use an oak tree. So we're gonna place that instead. Got my acorn. And we're gonna speed up time. Whoops. Okay. So now that we've sped up time, we have our oak tree over here. As you can see, it gives way more shade, a much bigger overhang. So it's kind of up to you how you want your tree to look. And if you really, really like the way the trees look, you can maybe spin them around. This is something we can do now with 1.1, is we're able to kind of spin these trees around. So you don't have to completely uproot it, as long as you have a place to put it before you do that. So yeah, I think I spun it around a little bit. I think this is a little bit better. I could also maybe spin it so that the piece there is kind of overhanging the chairs. So there we go. So now if you sit down, these leaves are a little bit further over the chairs. So this is the original position the tree was in. But yeah, you can experiment with what you'd like, and you can spin the trees around and all that. Let's add a little bit more shrubbery. These firelight seeds aren't really doing much with this flower bed, so I'm going to remove the flower bed, and instead I'm going to place maybe 3 side-by-side planters that are elevated. So we're going to go with the... actually, let's go with these. So I'm going to back this up. And we're going to place something like this here. And it looks like I can only place like 2 in front of the window, which is fine. I mean, there's nothing... It actually doesn't look too bad, so I think I'm going to leave that like that. And we'll instead put... we'll put our firelight seeds here. And then we'll place our table. If I can just move it, that'd be great. Struggling over here for some reason. I could also place some lighting out here. I think maybe some flying lights or even the Haunted Knight's floating gourd would be really good. I really like this particular lamp for kind of like outdoor stuff as well. And it kind of adds like a nice look to it with the pumpkin shape and all that. And I don't know, I just something about this lantern or chandelier I really like. But if you don't have that, a good option too might be just the regular floating lights, and of course you can add whatever color you want. In this case we're going to go with another orange. Most of these, I feel like most of the lights I've placed tonight have been mostly the orange ones, but overall it's looking really nice. We can add the rural trellises to add, you know, to the kind of wooden thematic we have going on here. And we can put that here, and we can also, if we want, add some firelight seeds into that. Or we can also add some wisteria on top, which would be really cool. So that's another good option. And I think maybe having another lighting piece out here might be good, just to kind of align it well with this door and create a little bit more lighting for the path. And then let's also maybe add our firelight seeds underneath here. So I'm going to use this right here. There we go. Oh, this one's too far forward. There we go. And then now we'll add our firelights seeds. And I think what I'll do is I'll remove these firelights. I don't like to repeat the same plant too many times, so instead we'll put sunflowers here. So we'll do a couple of sunflowers. And let's speed up time and take a look. Alright, so this is what it looks like at night. We have our nice little area here. I could maybe move this light a little bit here to the left to be more aligned with this center planter or trellis. And then now it's kind of the same as it is here on this side. So very nice. I kind of like the way this turned out. I could have also used some standing lanterns instead if I really wanted to. Like I could put one here on the corner. But I decided not to go with that this time. But what I will say is that I think that, you know, no matter what you decide to do with the corners of your castle, you know, like I said, last time I didn't really show too many, like, corner castle builds. So I definitely wanted to kind of go over that a lot in this one. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this. And whether you like this little kind of 4-tile garden space or not. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so for our 5th and final example, we're just going to kind of have a goal here of connecting this door to this door with at least one path. So I want to use at least a path here. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to also use some garden hedges. So we're going to go to garden, then hedges, and then I'm going to maybe make some use out of the shorter hedges and the longer hedges. And I'm going to do the same thing I did in the previous build where I kind of overlap it with the edge of the tile here. And I'm going to take full advantage of that. So we're going to do that. I'm going to kind of change it up with the taller and shorter hedges, one after another. And then I'm going to add another corner piece hedge here to kind of fit within this. I think I'm also going to add a square column. I could put something like this, and I think I might just do that. I could also use the, I could use something like this, but it's going to look a little weird if I do that, so I think I am going to just stick to these taller columns. Oddly enough, there's not a short one that's flat like that, so that's kind of a shame. Now that I'm looking at these, but yeah, it'd be like that, I guess. And I think this is fine. We're also going to add another one over here and here. And then we're going to add in our kind of like a similar build on this side with the tall and short hedges. Well, I guess I could maybe go with something a little bit different on this edge here. Like maybe I could use an actual garden fence instead. So maybe since we haven't used the nocturne gardening fences yet, we're just gonna put that there. There we go. So now we have a little bit of a barrier. We have a little bit of a mixed kind of a fencing area if you think about it. And let's try and add some more of these pillars for the hedges. We're gonna put them here, 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 and here. And we already did it on this side, so everything is looking really good. So now that we have the basic kind of setup, I definitely want to have some kind of pathway. So we're gonna go to garden, then paths, and I'm gonna use the gravel garden paving for this particular build. I don't have really like any particular reason why, I just think it'd be cool. Or a smarter idea might be to use something like the garden stone tile paving, because it does use up less space, like it does have kind of less of a footprint. So it's really up to you on how you want to kind of go about this, but the more I look at this, the more sold I am on the straight tone path here, or sorry, straight stone tile path. I'm getting a little tongue twisted there. And let's see, I could have like a road going directly between these two if I really wanted to, but I'm not really too keen on that. I kind of want to have like a big open space in front of these windows to kind of do more with, or at least have an opportunity to do something with them. And of course I'm going to have these two tile spaces here, and we're going to finish them off with the tile spaces here and here. So this gives me, this spot right here, this square, gives me just enough space to maybe add in something like a tree or a small fountain or something like that into the center there. That might be kind of cool to mess around with. I could also put a statue here if I really wanted to, so maybe I'll do that. Maybe we'll go with a statue in this particular build. So we're going to go to decoration, statues, and maybe I want to go with something like, I mean, I could go with something like this, which is from the Gloomrot pack, or I could go with something like this, like these Alucard statue, or, you know, something like that. This might be a little too big for this particular space, so I don't think I'm going to go with this. This is a little bit too small and not really filling the thematic part that I want. I could put like a little angel here if I wanted to. I could, well, I say little, but it was kind of big. Or I could put something like this if I really wanted to. I think in this case, I'm kind of on the fence. I think I might go with something either like the Alucard statue, or I could go with something like the angel. I think I'm gonna go with the Angelic statue this time around. I really like this one. So we're gonna go with the Angelic statue, and I think for the hedges, we're gonna go with something a little bit kind of, well, I guess the green is fine for the statues. I could just go with the green, or I could go with something like this that's maybe a little bit more full of life, maybe. I could also go with like a darker kind of grittier look, but I think the regular green is going to be fine. The only thing is that the flooring is going to have to change, because it looks a little bit too what's the word for it? I'm trying to think of what word I want to use here. It just doesn't add any depth, and it's just too much green. So I think I'm going to go with like maybe an orange tile flooring here for the grass, and then the hedges themselves are going to be a regular green color. So we're going to go with that. So we have a statue here in the center. Something else to consider with this build is that we're going to need some lighting. I think this might be a really, really good build to put something like the larger lights, or like standing lights or something like that. I think in this case, I'm going to use some of these larger lights, and I'm going to put them probably right here on the corners of this build. I might add another one here, maybe another one here, and maybe some from the insides, the inside corners here, just to kind of have a little bit of some kind of light or visual. And then I think the outside of the castle, I haven't really looked at the wallpapers yet for this, but if I needed to go with something a little bit different, I could go with something like this. So this is called the exterior sanctum walls, so I can go with that design, or I could go with something like this where the top is not all fully colored. So I'm gonna go with this one because it completely covers the top, and I think it just looks better from the exterior. And then we can also choose some windows. So in this case, I'm going to go with maybe something like these, which are kind of cool looking, I guess. I'm pretty sure these are from the Ancient Symphony pack as well. Yeah, so the Ancient Symphony windows. So this is also part of that Castlevania DLC, but I know a lot of you guys have this one, so I figured I'd kind of work with some of the pieces on this. And then I could also add some lighting. So for the pillar mounted lights, let's go with the clairvoyance ones to kind of match the standing lights we currently have. And, you know, part of the reason, I should have mentioned this earlier, but part of the reason why I decided to use the lower hedges against the wall is so that I could just put down something like this and not have to worry about this bleeding into the bush. So that's another cool benefit of that. I think I'm going to remove this though. I'm kind of not really liking them on the sides here. So I think I'm going to remove these lights for now. But it doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily not use more of them. I just have to figure out what I'm going to put here in the centerpiece. So this centerpiece here, I'd like to, I think maybe change the nature of this particular piece to something else. So maybe we'll go with a different kind of foundation, kind of like we did on the horse stable one, kind of. I could also go with something a little brighter, like these terracotta tiles, which I really like, and they tend to stand out a lot. And I feel like this could be a good way to kind of separate this space from the rest of it, if I really wanted to. So I could do that. I could also add, let's see, let's go with some tree plots right here, so we can have a couple of trees in our garden. And then I'm also going to kind of surround this area with sacred grapes. I think maybe having some sacred grapes on each side here might be good. I might line this with all sacred grapes as a nice little kind of look or unique feel to this outside. These windows could have been exactly the same, but I just wanted to place them both because I just like them both. So it's just a personal decision here, you know, not something to sweat over. And let's add some furniture. So we're gonna go with the Noble Garden benches. I think I can put one either against the wall here or to the sides. I think I'm gonna place them to the sides here with a little bit of a gap from the wall. Just a little bit, not too much. That way we're still inside of this kind of enclosed area here. I could also, like, if I wanted to tuck them closer to the wall, that is totally acceptable as well. So I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence on that. What I could do is I could add my I could add a light here, and as far as these lights go, I can go with any color I want. So if I wanted to go with something a little bit brighter, or like yellow even, like, I don't know, I'm not really a fan of the yellow myself, but it doesn't look too bad against this particular wallpaper, so it's something to consider. Green might be good too. Or like a blue even. So it's really up to me and, you know, up to you what you want to do here, but there's a lot of different options you can easily go with. Like the paler green doesn't look bad at all either. So that's another possibility. Or you can go with like the white candles, because the white candles will just show like the natural color of the outside of this building, which is also a nice option. So if you don't want to warp the colors, just go with the white. And Yeah, you know what? I think I am going to go with that. So we're going to go with like kind of like a more chill look here on the outside. And then I think I'm also going to change up well, actually, let's add some trees, and we're also going to add some flowers. So something I don't really like is the lining here between these pieces. Like, I feel like this transition is kind of strong, but not as strong as I would like. It's kind of like a weird overlap, and it looks a little weird. So what I could do is I could go to growing plots and then kind of add in whatever row of flowers I want, or whatever flower bed kind of thing that I want. I could put in a couple rows of flowers or whatever, but just in general, I kind of like the idea of using these just to kind of keep it from looking kind of weird. So we're gonna do that. And then we're also we're gonna leave the center pieces here alone. But we are going to, and when I say center pieces, I mean like the chairs. We're gonna leave the chairs alone, and we're gonna leave a gap here so that you can walk through, like, in and out of this space. I think it looks better like this, but if it's all the way around, it looks a little weird. So we're gonna keep this, and then I'm going to add some trees. So let's go with some oak trees. I think the oak trees probably fit best here. So we're gonna go with one tree right here, and then we're gonna go with another tree right here, and then we're also going to add all those sacred grape seeds that I mentioned earlier. So because this is more of just a solid ground, we don't have to put something like these planters. So I'm just going to take advantage of that and just start placing these. So here we go. And around this corner. I'm not going to put one under that lamp though. Well, I am, but just to measure. And actually, if I want, I'll also remove this because I feel like it doesn't quite fit the agenda here, what I'm trying to accomplish. And then, of course, I can have... I'm gonna have to also measure this and figure out how deep into these pillars I want my plants to go. So for the sake of time, I'm just kind of doing it in like bunches, right? But ideally you would want to do them individually just to kind of make the look very consistent, right? Like just kind of the same throughout. I'm gonna put one here just for spacing. Making sure I'm not putting things in the wrong spaces or places, I mean. And of course, like I said, I'm trying to kind of make up some time here, make sure I'm not being too crazy with these. And just looking at it, I think this is fine. I think that the flowers are going to look good. I think I could also... it looks like I can't really get away with adding more over here because of the pathing. So I think this is as good as it's going to get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually speed up time just to see what the trees look like. Alright, so this is what the trees look like when they're completed. Very nice. And let's also add in some sacred grape seeds, actually. And we're going to place those as well. So the difference with the sacred grapes versus other types of grapes is that I tend to keep them all facing the same direction, because to me it doesn't really make sense to not have them facing the same direction. Like, I always thought that was kind of like weird if they don't. So I think I'm going to have the pointy part facing the aisle. So really nice, actually. It adds a nice little lining to the hedges. I actually really like the way this turned out. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Let's also, I know I've been using sunflowers a lot in these builds, but it's because I really like the way that they look in these warmer toned gardens. And when I say warmer tone, I mean like using the reds and the oranges and things like that. I feel like adding a yellow flower just kind of makes sense. So there's that. And let's also add, actually, yeah, let's add some more here. And there. And then let's speed up time a little bit. Okay, so we have some really nice looking flowers in general, and I think that the yard is lit up enough that it's totally fine how this whole thing kind of looks. Something I could do if I was worried about it is add another light here on the corner. I don't know if it'll let me though, so let's see if it does. Okay, so I could add it like directly on the corner if I was worried about it, but I think in this case I'm not that worried about it, so I'm just gonna add it probably like right here, maybe? I don't know. It's a little close to that. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? I think having them at the edge here does make sense, so I'm just gonna put another one on this edge. We have our nice lighting. And of course I forgot to put down some doors, so let's close these out with some doors. Maybe I'll just go with this. Keep it simple. And oh, actually something else I could do. Technically I could use the Ancient Symphony doors. There's another version of it too. There's this one, which is has more of a blue look to it, which doesn't really match the door as much, but I really wish I could go back and like change the color of these to be like a slightly different tone. Like imagine if this was in green, guys. This would look so good against this wallpaper. But that is not what we have, unfortunately, but you know, just something I wanted to mention in case you guys were kind of thinking about this kind of stuff. But yeah, overall, this is a really simple look. It's functional. You can add, you know, you can sit down, enjoy whatever. If I wanted to be a little bit extra, or if I wanted to add more to this build, I could probably also add like a bird bath or something like to the edges here, or like even like the small fountains might be nice. So if I put a fountain here in front of these flowers, or like right, well, yeah, if I put it on the flowers, that'd be nice. Or I could remove these plants here and just place the fountains on the corners if I wanted to. That's another option. But I think in this case I'm just gonna stick it over here and maybe one over here, and that way we have a little bit of motion in this garden, a little bit of sound, and then of course I could also add, you know, these bird baths if I really wanted to, in pretty much various places here, like maybe like right here in front of these flowers might not be bad. And then I'll just put another one over here to make it symmetrical. And there we go, we have a completed garden. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this build in the comments. What do you think? Do you like the benches, or you know, is there anything you would have done a little bit differently? What do you think? And also let's take a look at it from the daytime really quick. So if we want to see it in the daytime, this is what it looks like. I think it looks a little bit better during the day than at night, but you guys let me know. So, what did you guys think of this video? Did you find it helpful? Which of these garden layouts did you like the most? Let me know in the comments below. In case you don't know, my name is Xolo Q. I stream 3 times a week on Twitch, Kick, and YouTube, and you can find me on various other social media. I have a ton of vrising related content on the channel, so make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe for more vrising related content. If you would like to support the channel further, I also have a merch store. This month I have a Day of the Dead design for mugs and t-shirts for a limited time, so grab them while you can. You can also become a YouTube member for just $5 a month, where you'll get early access to new videos and exclusive members only content. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, Xolo out.